the issue of opening the economy. You recall that the president, at the end of the year, addressed the country first of all. Among other things, he spoke about COVID-19 prevention and containment measures, and he also announced, as he had earlier pledged, that come January 2022, the economy is going to fully reopen, that all the spaces which were still under restriction shall be open. And he gave timelines. Some of the areas have already been opened, but we recall one of the most important statements he made was that the schools would open beginning 10th of January, and some of the areas, especially those that constitute the night economy, shall open 2 weeks after the opening of schools. And just by simple mathematics, if the schools opened on the 10th of January, 2 weeks means 14 days. So the 2 weeks end on the 24th of January, which is Monday. And therefore, we are coming to that period when the 2 weeks are ending, and we expect now the remaining areas, with the exception of the Bodabobas, where they will still be subjected to curfew from 7 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. The rest of the spaces which were under restriction will start opening. So the position, as the president announced, still remains the same. But you also recall that the president cautioned that should the situation worsen, there is a risk of restricting some of these areas again. The implication of his statement was that yes, as government, we are reopening the economy to allow it to rejuvenate and grow again. But all of us as Ugandans, we must remain conscious to the fact that COVID-19 remains a challenge. And therefore, all of us should carry the responsibility of fighting COVID-19 by observing the SOPs and the other public health preventive measures. For instance, the opening of the economy doesn't mean we throw away the masks. We shall continue to require you to put on masks when you are in public, and put them on correctly and consistently. We shall continue to require members of the public to wash their hands with soap and water or use a sanitizer. We shall continue to require the public to observe social and physical distancing when you are congregated, and so forth and so forth. And therefore, as we open the economy, let us continue observing the preventive measures. For instance, churches and prayer places had earlier on been restricted to have only 200 people going for prayers at a go. Now the opening means there may be no restriction on the numbers, but again the people managing the prayer places should remain conscious, should not just have the churches filled to the brim simply because we have opened. What it means is that they should still insist on people coming for prayer to have masks. Number two, to ensure that they sanitize as they enter the church or wash hands, to ensure that as you sit in the church or in the prayer place, you must observe the physical and social distancing. So all those measures remain. So we open, but cognizant of the fact that we must continue fighting COVID-19 because it remains a challenge. At a personal level, it also means that if there is a congregation that you don't have to go to, please don't. If there is a wedding attended by many people, if you don't have to be part of that wedding, you can as well avoid it. In other words, if you go into these huge congregations, you are still at a risk of contracting or spreading the COVID-19 disease. And therefore, we are opening, but we should remain conscious and sensitive to the fact that COVID-19 remains a real challenge, and we should do all it takes to avoid. In any case, health is a personal responsibility. You will not require police or government to come and watch you whether you are observing these measures, but it should be your own personal responsibility to say, oh, that congregation is too huge. There is a big risk of getting COVID-19. If you don't have to go to that congregation, avoid it. Like the president has always advised, that you can pray from home and still God will hear your prayers. So in other words, if there is a gathering which you can avoid, please still avoid it, because COVID-19 is a big challenge. Particularly the night economy. Now we are going to open the bars. It is not very easy to control people who are under the influence of alcohol, for instance. And that's why throughout the lockdown, we've been emphasizing that bars, they should still be controlled. So when the government opens, including the bars, let's not be excited and forget that COVID-19 is still there, and therefore that can be an avenue through which you can get infected or infect others. So in brief, I am saying we are opening the economy, but let's all remain conscious and sensitive to remember that COVID-19 is still there. As we participate in this open economy, let's all be mindful about our health and the health of others. And our appeal still continues that we should all embrace vaccination for COVID-19. We have enough vaccines, both in stock and in the pipeline, and therefore anybody who is 18 years and above should be going for vaccination. And because we have fairly adequate doses of vaccines, we are even giving booster doses. And we are starting with those who are 50 years and above. I see most of you are below 50. But also those who have underlying conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, HIV, liver disease, all those, they are also eligible for a booster dose. So those with the pre-existing conditions and those above 50 years, you should go and get a booster dose. That is a third dose in case you had received the 2 doses, or a second dose in case you had received the Johnson & Johnson, where you receive only 1 injection.
Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam.